right, we're back for NAL Live. This is episode number 7. So, sorry, Rob, that you were number 7.
No, hey, lucky number 7, man. This is perfect.
No, I'm trying to get around the entire league. I had you on my other podcast, the Andrew Haines Show. That was back a few months back, so it was great kind of chatting with you. The cool thing about NAL Live is the interaction with the fans. So we encourage, post comments, questions. We'll make sure that, we get to as many as we can. But it's great to kind of give the fans like a behind the scenes look at, the coaches, and especially someone like yourself who's got all these damn championships and, to let the fans know, look, hey, you're still, just a guy with a lot of hardware.
I tell you what, without the fans, I mean, none of this would be possible when you talk about arena football. So I definitely welcome it. It's going to be a good night. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. So, walk us through kind of your background. Where did you grow up, go to school, and kind of get into the sports?
Sure. I'm actually from the Washington, D.C. area. So anybody that is accustomed to Washington, D.C., you'll hear the term DMV. A lot, and people will think you're going to get your license renewed or something, but it actually stands for the District of Maryland and Virginia, because they're all kind of one kind of area, synonymous with each other. And so I'm from the Northern Virginia part of the DMV, as we would say, but I went to high school in Washington, D.C. So yeah, really good conference, the Washington Catholic Area Conference, or athletic conference. I went to a college or high school called Gonzaga, much like the college. My high school was called Gonzaga College High School, powerhouse. Not to start anything with anybody, but I would probably put that conference against any conference in the nation. Like Stephon Diggs, Chase Young, right now, guys like that, guys riddled throughout the NBA and the NFL. DeMatha Catholic High School is a big one as well. So just big time ball in Washington D.C. So I got to see sports at a young age at a very, very high level. My high school, we were at one time, my junior year of high school, we were 6th in the nation in basketball and 14th in the nation in football. So just great athletics there. So, got to experience a lot there. And then I actually went to a prep school. I was really young for my age. I was 17 when I graduated high school. Still had a lot of maturing, a lot of growing up to do. And it's funny too, because of where I am now, not to kind of jump ahead, but, friends from high school, when I first started playing professionally, they were like, whoa, like this is crazy, because, for me, I was small, I was young. A couple guys that I was behind on the depth chart of my high school played in the NFL. And so that, they just kind of didn't expect this from me. So you never know. It's all about, just the kind of progression. So when I talk to kids, especially, I always talk about that kind of progression of life of how, hey, you don't have to be a superstar in high school. It's all about kind of how you end up and the work ethic that you have and the discipline that you have to whatever you want to do. So for me, I had to go to a prep school. I went to a prep school in Maine. And then that's kind of where I started branching out. I think I was very fortunate to be from the DC area. I know a lot of people don't get to experience that. Literally, I went to high school about 6 blocks away from the Capitol. So, I was taking cabs at 14 years old to my dad's office. I'm riding the metro, the subway. I thought that was a normal way to grow up. And then I go to Maine, and you realize that's not how everybody grew up. So got to kind of see and branch out a little bit. And then in Maine, it was really cool. It's called Bridgeton Academy, and it's the only all-male one-year prep school in the nation. So just 300 kids from all over the country come there to get their grades up, get another a year of high school, or colleges sent them there to get bigger, stronger, quicker, faster. And that's definitely what I did. I grew about 4 inches. I gained about 40 pounds, and it was awesome. We had to play 2 sports. If you were an athlete, it was mandatory. And for football, all the colleges that we played against were JV Ivy League schools. So I got to play against Brown and Dartmouth and Yale. And, it was really cool to go to those colleges and see, and really experience that, to be on those campuses. Just a really cool experience. And then I had a few offers. I was a Division II, 1AA FCS type athlete, and I settled on a Division II school called Mercyhurst University. And at that time, we played in the GLIAC. And so, the claim to fame right now, probably for my 4 years, Brian Kelly, who's the head coach of Notre Dame, was the head coach of Grand Valley State at that time. So we played against him 4 years. 3 out of the 4 years I was there, Grand Valley State won the Division II national championship. So that's how good Brian Kelly was. It's about 20 years ago now. And Matt LaFleur, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, he was a quarterback for Saginaw Valley State. So really good football. Best friends of my life. Really, really enjoyed it. Loved every minute of it. And that's when I started kind of seeing the accolades start coming. And preseason All-American, All-Conference. I was a cornerback and a kick return, punt return specialist. I just loved it. Was captain of the team. Really started kind of coming into my own. And then Mercyhurst was in that Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh area, right there in the northwest corner. Oh my dude, coldest place on earth. Freezing my butt off. But yeah, again, loved every minute of it. Wouldn't change it for the world. It gave me a great opportunity. And yeah, I would say that those were my younger years, and just really, really proud of that part of my journey, and got to meet a lot of people, and that's what football does. It expands your horizons, and you get to make a lot of relationships.
Well, and I think what you said kind of. I was watching the Orlando Magic game the other day, and they were talking about one of the players, and how he was cut from his high school team as a sophomore or junior, and kind of like your career, you had mentioned, it kind of developed a little bit later on, but it's tough not to get discouraged, when you're that age, and you're not on the team, or you're not the top guy, but just because you aren't then doesn't mean that you can't turn that around, or you're going to grow or develop and have the drive to be successful. So I think that's pretty cool to hear, on your journey.
Well, yeah, and then too, when you really look at it, I always do this stuff for younger players too, that if they're in a small college, or any college for that matter, we're all very aware of the ultimate funnel system. A lot of athletes will see how many kids play in high school, and then compared to how many kids play in college, and then the 0.001%, that make it into the NFL. But a lot of those players that make it actually into the NFL, there's a lot of Division II and Division III athletes, that are playing. And so when you see that, it gives the guys hope. And then you just never know. And then I think it's all about the work ethic, the discipline. From my college experience, again, a student athlete. I got great grades in college. I was in that kind of that 3.2, 3.3 range. So I appreciated the competition when it came to academics, but I really consider myself an athlete first. I felt that I was there for football, and I think that's the mindset that younger people have to take. That again, it's not where you start from a high school perspective. It's where you can eventually end up. And you see kids go the JUCO route, small colleges, and you never know where it can take you. And it's all about the journey. That's really what it's all about.
Where's where BK is? I see Terrence, Coach Foster from the flight said he was played at BK during that time. Yeah,
look, and then so Mercyhurst, is it's in the PSAC. So for those, it's a Pennsylvania State, and I always tell, there's two young, yeah, man. And I'm always out to help young, small colleges as well. That down here in Orlando, Florida, I've been here for a long time, coaching for the Orlando Predators, and I kind of settled, here. Been here for about the last 7 years, and I help out with 7-on-7s and high schools and youth leagues, and I've sent a lot of younger players. I've kind of helped on their journey to get them to small schools, because you never know, they could be overlooked too. So it's awesome. And I know a lot of the coaches and general managers in the NAL, like they have the same kind of experience. So it's always cool to kind of share those stories.
We got Mike Soapsack here, a friend of mine from Canton. He definitely is correct. I could have made it in the NFL. I've got everything they need, but got some fans out there, loving that you brought the Arena Bowl championship, which we'll get to, and they can't wait to get that NAL trophy, which I don't know if you've seen the NAL trophy. It's pretty badass. They got.
I've done my research, and I think, coupling that kind of what we're talking about, the theme of the night, maybe it is, it's terms of you never know where you're going to end up. It's all about the journey. That's again too where I think people think the destination spot is the NFL. There's whether it be and the NBA with the G League. Look, I have friends that are playing in Iceland and Sweden, still playing basketball to this day, and and they're in their late 30s. And so it's the same thing with baseball. All the minor league system, hockey, and football is no different. Whether it be the arena football leagues or the XFL or the Canadian Football League. Those are the talking about my playing career. That's the same thing that I did. So the goal obviously is to reach the pinnacle. But meanwhile, I mean, it's again the journey and the experience, and sports is fun, no matter what level you're doing it on.
So, what were your plans going out of college? I mean, were you like, do you have it in your mind you're playing in the NFL? You're gonna, get there. Were you getting looked at on, draft boards? Did you know you were gonna have to be a free agent?
Yeah, so for me, so what you do at that stage, the combine that you would have for smaller athletes, it's never held at our college. So for our combine, you would have it at Penn State, let's say, or if you were a small college in Florida, you would go to the Florida State would absorb maybe all the small D2 or NAIA schools, and the students would go there. 50 scouts are not going to come to one small school for one person. So that's what I did, and again, hey, hopefully. My 40 time was high, low enough. Hopefully, the intangibles of the measurables from the L drill and the short shuttle and all those kind of things. So did I think I was going to be drafted? No. I wasn't on anybody's draft board, but I was hopeful. Like for me, the one thing I always have is like I always assume that no matter what I'll do, I'll end up on top. Obviously if my heart's in it, I'm doing the right things. That's kind of how I feel. So it was all really new to me. So I had an agent. That was kind of a really cool experience because from a Division II standpoint, it's not like you're playing at the University of Oklahoma where, 60 guys are preparing for the combine. This is for me, hey, I had a really good career from a Division II perspective. I started 4 years. I broke records as a punt returner that, I felt like, hey, I can make a career out of this. And then, so what I did was I was invited to some combines. And so some regional combines, some NFL teams are looking at you. You have some workouts with some teams, but never signed a big contract, never got into camp. And you're kind of like, now what? And I think for me, it wasn't a dejecting moment. It was more of like, what's the next avenue? Like, how do you do this? Like, how does a small player get into, the NFL? And that's where the Arena Football League, the Arena II League at that time, the CFL, those all became avenues, for me, and just finding a way, because I felt like it's almost like I explain to people too. It's like an actor, right? You have people that are winning Academy Awards, but you also have people making a good living doing commercials, and you also have people that are making a good living on Broadway or sitcoms or small time actors, and so for me, I was like, this is still entertainment. I just have to figure out my avenue of how to get to where I needed to be.
Chris Desanto, he's posted in here. Tell me about Chris, because I think is he a D lineman?
So Chris, that is a dear friend of mine. And so he was captain of Spokane Shock with me in 2006. We won a championship together. We coached at a small college in Pikeville College in 2005 together. He's been there, done that. He's been in the NFL. He was a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL. He's amazing dude, man. So it's another great relationship through Arena Football.
I put my finger on it, but I want to say that I met Chris early on in his journey, back when Chris Thompson, we talked about, and some of those other guys, like around that same time at some workouts. I want to say he might have worked out for Siegfried at the same time.
I'm sure he did. Yeah, so he was a center. Another small school Division II guy from Pennsylvania. Yeah. I'll never forget. Look, so Jason Gibson, now that the coach of obviously the Columbus Lions. I actually played for Columbus, but they were called the Columbus War Dogs. That was my first experience with the Arena II League. And it was, I'll never forget it. We're playing in Columbus, Georgia, but we're living in Opelika, Alabama. I walk into a hotel and Chris was my roommate. And this is 2004. So that's how far that relationship goes back. I'll never forget walking into that room and just really not knowing what I'm getting myself into, and just saying, hey, look, I got to make this team. And, I got to figure out what this arena football stuff is. But yeah, that's a great relationship right there.
Yeah, it's like the more I talk to, the coaches and the people around the league, it's like you just realize, how everyone is intertwined, and it's
without a doubt. That's crazy. Football in general. I mean, we're literally, look, all of us are one person removed from someone else. For me personally right now, I did it the other day. I was doing it with my nephew. And he asked me, a question, and I think for 32 teams in the NFL, I think I know someone on 28 of the teams that is either somewhere in the personnel department, someone that's a coach, and those relationships either stem from arena football as a player, as a coach, or from college days, or a brother of a player that I played with, something of that nature. It's so cool how everybody really is connected.
So when you got through college and started, doing your workouts, did you settle on the AF2 pretty quickly? How did all that come about?
Yeah, so I went up. So I was in Montreal with the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL, and with the Toronto Argonauts. And it was all workouts. It was all trying to get up there, trying to get on the team, kind of being that fringe kind of player. And look, this is I'm out 22, 23, trying to find my way, trying to figure out, am I good enough? And really, is the confidence there? That's a big part of it too. Am I fast enough? Am I strong enough? Really, my peak probably I was probably about my strongest, my fastest, my most confident about 27, 28. So that 23 where I'm catching up to my body. And a lot of, I tell younger players this too, a lot of Division I athletes, when you look at, if we went to a roster right now of University of Miami, and then you chose a small school, let's say in Indiana or something, look at the difference of the body types of those players at Miami to those players at that small school. It's nothing that the smaller school kids are doing, but really a Division I athlete is a grown man at the age of 16. That's really what it is. These guys have full beards, going into college. And so I wasn't like that. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I just had to kind of figure that out. So what Chris Desanto right there, again, a great relationship. We trained with Jamal Lewis's brother, the running back who played for the Browns and, was in the NFL for a very long time. His brother, John Lewis, was a famous trainer in Atlanta, Georgia. And so that's where I kind of got the beginning of the training process of how do I get bigger, stronger, quicker, faster. Some things I might have not had at a Division II school. How do I then get exposed, if you will, to NFL caliber training? And then that's when it started hitting where then the Arena League, the AF2, that's when I settled on the Arena 2 and I said, this is the route that I'm going to go. This is the most professional experience that I can have at this time. And just quickly, I played 3 years in the AF2 and about a total of maybe 24 games because I came on a little bit late in the first season. But with that being said, I went from as a defensive back, I had no interceptions my first year trying to figure out the league, and then 3 interceptions the second year, and then I had 13 interceptions the third year. And it was like it just started clicking. And at that 25-year-old range, then I was 5'11", 195 pounds, very different than the 5'9", 160-pound guy that started 3 years before. And it just really all started clicking for me.
Yeah. So, it wasn't like you just went out there and all of a sudden you're dominating. There was a learning curve and there was a developmental curve for you.
No, look, story of my life too. And I'm okay with that, and that's again where I talk to younger players and to kids especially. I talk to kids of all age groups and whether it be college all the way down to the first graders, is that, it's about the process. It's literally, for me, everything in my life has been an everyday, I've never been really great at anything, and I'm okay with that. It's been this systematic approach of gathering as much information as I can, putting myself in the right positions, training, working out, eating right. I had to learn how to eat. I had to learn how to eat properly. Look, this is not a knock on smaller schools, but the meal plan that you have at a small school is not the same meal plan that you have at the University of Clemson. So I had to learn all that stuff and supplementation and proper sleeping and eating. I started becoming a professional athlete and really try to follow all the tips I was getting from all these great athletes that were around me.
Yeah, no, that's key. So first 3 years, where were you at? You were
first 3 years. Yeah, it was Columbus, Georgia. We were called the Columbus War Dogs at that time, and it was great. That was showing my age now. I just turned 40. And this is 2004, so I'm about 23 years old. Late birthday in November. So as I played arena football, 23 in 2004. And so learning, John Forcade was the head coach there. Really appreciate him for giving me that opportunity. He was an Ole Miss quarterback, great college athlete. Played for the New Orleans Saints. Still does a lot of stuff down in New Orleans. And I tried to learn the game the best I possibly could. And then the next year, I was with the Macon Knights, and Derek Stingley was the defensive coordinator. Derek Stingley's amazing arena football player. His son right now, Derek Stingley Jr., is the starting corner for LSU. Probably going to be a first-round draft pick here in another year. So that's a pretty cool story with his family. Mike Hold was the head coach. Great University of South Carolina Gamecock quarterback. And so learning from these guys. Well, I wasn't getting a lot of playing time. And so I remember I walked into their offices probably about four weeks into the Macon night season. This is 2005. And I said, hey, look, I love you guys. I'm not getting a lot of playing time. I feel like I'm picking this up. Where can I go? And, they love me. I'm always going to be, I'm a total team player, never going to be a problem. And they said, well, where do you want to go? I said, well, who wants me? What's the closest available team? And he said, well, hey, man, we can trade you to the South Georgia Wildcats, which was at that time, it was in, Albany, Georgia. And they were coached by, Chris Siegfried, who's now the commissioner of the NAL. And I said, look, let's go. Let's do it. And this is lunchtime. This is about noon on a Tuesday, early 2005 season. And they said, hey, called me an hour later and said, hey, you've been traded to the South Georgia Wildcats. And, who knows what I was traded for, box of Cracker Jacks or something.
I don't know.
Who knows, but, they sent me down there and literally I got in my car. Everything to my name is packed up in this car. I mean, look, I feel like I can write a book about this stuff. And I always felt that I was always going to bring everything with me. And that's how confident I was, because I feel like if you only pack a bag, do you really have the belief in yourself that, you're really going to be there for the long time? So, I mean, my whole car was packed. You could barely see out of the back. But it's about a 2-hour drive south from Macon, Georgia to Albany, Georgia. I show up about 30 minutes into their practice for that particular day. I get dressed out. I'll never forget, they geared me up real quick and, came out. And in practice, I had 2 interceptions. Just came out there, that kind of, the Woody stretch from, white man can't jump, just, stretch for a good, minute or two, whatever I needed to do. And jumped out there, got 2 interceptions. And that week, I was playing and I was on the team and really started to pick up the game. Really just, again, repetition. The more reps you get, I think, as a professional athlete, the better that you do get. The speed of the game started slowing down, and that was really a great break for me. And I felt really good about it. And then what happened there was Chris Siegfried, the next year, became the head coach of the Spokane Shock. And that's kind of how it all came with me. I was the first player signed to the Spokane Shock in the AF2. And that's kind of where it all really, really clicked for me. That offseason after the South Georgia Wildcats in 2005, I coached at a small college called Pikeville College in Eastern Kentucky. 6,000 people in this town, maybe 1,000 kids at the school. And every coach that was at the college, outside of the coordinators and the head coach, all the position coaches like myself were arena football players. And some of the players were playing in the AFL. I was obviously playing in the AF2. So just being around them, creating those bonds, creating those relationships, we all trained together. We all coached together. We actually finished 4th in the nation at the NAI. We lost in the semifinals, 1 game away from winning the national championship in the NAI. So that was my first at 24 years old, 25 years old, being introduced to coaching. And I loved it. I was a running backs coach. I was coaching special teams. I was a signal caller for the offense. I really knew that, hey, this is something that I'm actually going to be good at when this playing thing is all done. And then after that, me and Chris Desanto, who just chimed in, who I love to death, we got in a car together in January, and we drove cross country to Spokane. And that's again, Spokane was an expansion franchise, and that's where really everything professionally for me clicked.
When you were down in Georgia, we've got a question from Antoine Williams. Did you play with Pierre Lee and PJ Barry?
No. Okay. So that was a little after my time.
Okay.
But those guys, yes, down there, great players. PJ Barry's an amazing return specialist. So those guys are a little bit younger than me. So when I started coaching in the AFL, PJ Barry was playing. So again, too, I mean, that's a great question because again, when I really started coaching, we haven't got into that part yet, but I started coaching at 28, 29 years old. So I'm coaching players who are older than me, and I still do. This past 2 seasons ago with the Albany, I had players that were my age, and so as a younger coach, you really learn how to communicate with younger players. You're not that father figure. You're young. I'm a young, active coach, so very different kind of dynamic there. But not quite with those guys. I was still aged them a little bit.
Well, Chris, wanted to point out that you have an extremely high football IQ, which I think is very important, to be, elite, in the game. So,
well, I appreciate him saying that. I think for me, again, and I say this to a lot of younger players too, that especially a lot of young players now, like, for me, I remember at 6, 7, 8 years old, I still am. I'm glued to the TV, watching football, and that's as other kids might play the piano, I'm doing football. So look, we can go into the 10,000 hour rule and all these great books that people write about your craft. I knew that I was going to be involved in football somehow. So I knew I wasn't always going to be the strongest or the fastest or the biggest. So then it came to, how can I compete? How can I put myself in the right positions based on down and distance and alignment, hash marks, part of the field, time of the game, all these things that could be indicators to put you as a player in the right position. And then that's just from watching football and being around the game as long as I have. And again, repetition as a young player, high school, prep school, college, arena, and just gathering and still learning to this day, gathering as much information as I can.
Were you like a big film guy when you played?
I still am. I tell you, look, players that play for me, literally, I mean, they ask, when are we going to be done? How long is this session going to be? Because when I say, hey, one more play, that means about 30 more minutes. I mean, that's just how I am. I got to be very aware of the time and attention spans. But look, film is the ultimate indicator. Right? I believe as a coach, I'm a teacher. Like the word coach is really weird. I don't really know what that means. I teach football, and as a player, football was a class to me. Like when I would go into the offices of college, when I had time off in college or at a lunch break or whenever I had downtime or a period off, and I wanted to watch film. I wanted to, how can I get better for this week? What can I learn? I felt like it's the answers to the test before the test happens. I mean, that's what film really, really is. And so absolutely, to this day, I mean, it's all that me and my staff do is watch as much film as we possibly can, and then teach players how to properly watch film on their own. And you're not just watching it, and popping popcorn and watching it like a movie. I mean, you're rewinding a play, 10, 15 times to get the key indicators of how you can dissect the other team.
Speaking of movies, James Lyle puts up here that you were traded for 3 AMC movie tickets.
Oh, so, I don't know if
sure,
man. Look, I tell you what, you're not going to find. A lot of people don't know me. You know what I mean? A lot of people will see kind of the exterior and they see me on TV or something or see me giving interviews. I'm a humble guy. Look, I'm very blessed to win championships as a player and as a coach, but I'm very aware it's a team sport, and at that time, I think that's what I'm most proud of. To go from no interceptions and getting scored on and just being like, man, I might get cut every single day, to being an all arena player. I'm very proud of that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, at the time I probably traded for 2 AMC movie tickets. You know what I mean? And it was probably a movie that wasn't even sold out, So it was
that the Wednesday special.
The Wednesday matinee, And so, but that's what I think. That's why I think I relate to players a lot too. I think it's, to me, I can be around the great players too, but I really do feel like I can see and I can evaluate. And Coach Moss, who I hope we talk about too, my right-hand man, our assistant head coach in Albany. It's about the evaluation too, of finding that diamond in the rough. And, and I really will say this to this day, John Forcade literally could have passed on me in a heartbeat. At that time I wasn't standing out, but for him to give me an opportunity for me to come as far as I did, I mean, who knows where I would be if I didn't have that opportunity. And, I'm very grateful for that.
So how did it turn out? You basically pack up your car again, you go cross country, and that's not just like an easy cross country trip. I mean, that's far. That's like up in the northwest corner.
Oh, I mean, so Spokane is the equivalent of Pittsburgh, as Seattle is the equivalent of Philadelphia for the East Coast people. So that's a far journey. You're almost into Idaho. But yeah, so we were Pikeville, Kentucky, all the way to Spokane, Washington, and we did the whole thing. We took turns. I slept, he slept. I remember having a break on the side of the road in the middle of North Dakota, looking up and seeing more stars than you can possibly imagine. I'll never forget that stuff. But yeah, you see buffalo, you see antelope. I mean, Google that, American antelope. People don't realize those things exist.
They're around.
Wow. Dude, it's amazing. And then seeing coyotes and all kind of stuff. So again, another great experience. Football was allowed me to go all the way out to Spokane, and look, it really was a great experience. I mean, to be there, had a really, really good team. We ended up going 14-2 in the regular season. We ran through the playoffs. We won our championship. The Arena Cup is what it was called in the Arena 2, Arena Bowl in the AFL. And yeah, that was my first championship. I was 25 years old, captain of the team. Just really honored, lifelong friendships, great coaching staff, great city. And it was an unbelievable experience, and something I'll never forget to this day.
Who was that first championship against, and where was it played at?
So we played against the Green Bay Blizzard. Bob Lanzi was the head coach. Great team. They really did had a very good team. Joe Sykes, who I ended up coaching, for Albany, just a force out of defensive linemen. Great quarterback. And again, at that time, there was probably I might be jacking the number up a little bit here, but there was 28 to 32 AF2 teams. I mean, it was literally sectioned out by Northwest and Southeast and Northeast. I mean, so it was a full split. It was really an East and West Coast thing. But we are actually going to play the game in Bossier City, Louisiana. And at this time, I believe Hurricane Katrina hit the year before. So this is 2006. Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, unfortunately. And there was still a rebuilding process. If I recall correctly, the Dallas Cowboys were going to have a preseason game, because this is in August of 2006, against the New Orleans Saints, but it could not be hosted at the Superdome because they were still housing people, unfortunately, displaced citizens. They were housing them at the Superdome, for emergency shelter. So they had to move the NFL preseason game to LSU, which is very close to Bossier City. We felt that we would not have a ticket sale pool that would have a good, venue for us at Arena 2. We maybe lose out to the NFL. So the owners got together, the commissioner got together. At that time, Jerry Kurz. They decided to have the game in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And it was, again, an amazing event. We went down there. It was a business trip. And so Coach Chris Siegfried, who's the commissioner of the NAL, I remember he imparted me at making the roster for the hotel. So I made the housing list because I knew who was close with who, and I knew who would get along with who, because we'd be there for 7 days. So you wanted to make sure you're rooming with the right people. We wanted to make sure our practices were crisp. We weren't down there just to party. But it was a great experience. I was interviewed. I had to go to Telemundo with a couple of other players. So I had a translator there in Spanish. I mean, the Puerto Rican people were awesome. It was just a really, really a great experience. And so we won. We beat the Green Bay Blizzard. Great game. Had an interception during the game. It was just awesome. And then what happened at that time, all the AFL coaches and all the AFL owners were also down there, and they were scouting the game. And that was kind of a feeder system. The AF2 was a feeder system to the AFL. So great experience that we were able to show out the way we did. And a lot of players that I played with ended up playing in the AFL. And, I was really happy that they were able to make that jump.
So at what point did you start getting, some interest from, AFL? Was it at that point, or?
Yeah, it was after that season. Yeah. So after the 2006 season, I was first team all AF2, first team defensive back. I had 13 interceptions. I want to say I had like 127 tackles, in 16 games. So just, all over the place. But again, look, when you watch the tape, look, as an evaluator right now, what do you see? I would evaluating myself. Hey, a guy who's maybe not the strongest and the fastest out there, but always going to be in the right place. Sure hands. I actually played wide receiver in high school. So I was able to get the ball back, not a PBU guy. I was always an INT guy. So anytime it came my way, I was going to pick the ball to get it back for my team. Look, that's what arena football is. It's a possession game. So the more possessions you can get back for your offense, more than likely, you're going to win the football game. So I had a couple tryouts and workouts, about 6 of them, which was awesome. And I actually made it to camp with the Kansas City Brigade, which actually Coach Siegfried, who was our coach for Spokane, actually became the offensive coordinator. Yep. He became the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Brigade. And so a lot of the Spokane Shock players were able to get in camp with Kansas City. And it was awesome. It was a great experience. And, I always tell players too, or anybody in life, when you go on an interview, hey, if you don't get the job, you're still aware now of the interview process. And I'm still aware of how I had to interview. So I was there for 2 weeks. I ended up getting cut. And, I was dejected. I was upset. I felt like I belonged, but then again, hey, I'm a very faithful guy. Hey, I'm always going to be put in the position that I should be put in, whatever the situation or adverse moment I have to kind of rise above. Didn't make the team. And I went back in 2007 to Spokane again for my 4th season in the AF2.
How did that?
Well, it was good. So a guy for me, I had to prove myself, right? So maybe they thought, hey, maybe this one season was a fluke. We actually ended up losing in the first round. Adam Shackelford became the head coach. Great offensive mind. He did wonders for the Louisville Fire the year before. And so we were 14-2 for the Spokane Shock in 2006. And one of the teams that we lost to were the Louisville Fire. And we probably had 70 points put up against us, and our owners didn't forget that. So they hired Adam Shackelford, who did great things for Spokane in the AF2 and in the IFL. But for us, we didn't win the first round. But for me, it was another year of just a great season. Again, captain again. I had 12 interceptions. So in 2 years as a DB, I had 25 interceptions.
Nice.
First team All AF2. Again, both times I lost by a vote for Defensive Player of the Year. So, AFL teams were saying, okay, this is not a fluke. He knows how to play, but can he hang with the big guys? And then after that, I got an opportunity to be in camp with the Philadelphia Soul, and really, really never looked back on that professional journey.
So you finally, got out there. How difficult was that, to kind of make the team? I'm sure that, they had their main guys that were returning and, other guys from the AFL. And so you're coming up from the AF2, still kind of on the fringe, I would think, right?
Oh, absolutely. And look, I think too, you can always work on becoming faster. You can always work on getting stronger. And so for me, a guy like me, it wasn't, naturally I was an athlete. Naturally I'm an athlete, right? Right now I could play football. I can run out there and play basketball with you. But for me, I was an everyday, had to keep grinding kind of person. So I had to work on my speed. I had to work on my agility. I had to work on my strength portion. I couldn't take a month off and just, lace up the shoes and get out there. And so when we get to the Philadelphia Soul, projected to be the number one team in the league, it was definitely evident. You had players there that will be in the AFL Hall of Fame. We had in camp, we had 6 guys that were drafted in the first round. I mean, that's how serious that team was. NFL players, big time money. Obviously, you're making a lot more money. There's a lot more involved. The owner at that time was John Bon Jovi. Ron Jaworski was a team president. We actually had ESPN in camp doing a documentary. So it was pretty cool. Every Monday, we would see an hour of us in camp. I mean, that it was almost like a Hard Knocks kind of approach. And so for me, it was like, hey, this is as big as it gets. If you're not in the NFL at that time. So this is 2008. And so what I basically had to do was every single day, the approach that I took, and again, I tell young players, I believe in the process of really just grinding it out. Don't worry about anyone else. Control what you can control. There was about 16 DBs in camp, and I wasn't trying to be the best. I just realized I had to be better than the next guy. And so every day I would just say, hey, I got to be better than this guy. And then that guy would get cut. And then the next day I would say, I got to be better than this guy. And then that guy would get cut. And just put myself in the right positions, doing anything they asked me to do. Kick off, kick return, wide receiver, carrying coffee. I mean, that's just the kind of guy that I am. And just, again, a team player. So if you're talking about basketball, look, I'm not going to be the guy that drops 30 points, but I'm going to get the rebounds for you, and I'm going to get the steals for you, and I'm going to take the charge for you, and I'm going to come off the bench and do whatever you need me to do. And they recognize in me that in me, and there was a spot for me on the team.
So your first year with Philly, did you get to see a lot of action? Were you still, kind of back on and off the roster?
Yeah. So look, this is my journey. I'm glad people are listening to this, because hopefully, I don't know if you saw, I have to take it too far off the topic, but Queen's Gambit, if anybody has seen that show on Netflix, it's about chess. But the moral that I got from it was, I guess the guy who wrote Queen's Gambit, he wrote it for 30 years. He's been pitching it to advertisers for 30 years. It had like 9 different rewrites. And here now it is, the biggest show in the world on Netflix. And so I take those kind of stories that I think everybody is all about the immediate. And for me, it's just never been like that. I've never just walked out and said, hey, here's a trophy, or, here's a contract. I've always had to work for it. So the point is, the first 8 weeks of the Philadelphia Soul season in 2008, I was on the practice squad, and I was the 5th DB, 4 DBs dressed. One of the DBs was very versatile. He was kick returner, can do a lot. Mike Brown, still a friend to this day. Amazing stuff. So what happens is, all of a sudden, that 9th game, I'll never forget it. They brought me to the office. Coach Brett Muncie, who after the Philadelphia Soul coached for the Washington Redskins, Again, and coaches are making jumps. So I'm noticing that too, to the NFL. But, he brought me in the office. He said, "Hey, Rob, look, man, we're going to get through this game, but if you're not playing this week, we think, some other teams actually can use you. You get some playing time." And so I'm recognizing too, hey, I do want to get playing time. I'm recognizing, though, I really love Philadelphia. I love the environment here. All the guys love me. I'm kind of the young one on the team. We had a very older, mature team, and I'm learning so much from these guys. And anyway, what happened in that game, the game that I'll never forget, I'm watching, you watch from the crowd when you're on the practice squad, you're in the owner's box kind of thing. And two defensive backs actually get hurt during that game. And next thing you know, the next week, week 9, I'm starting for an 8-1 team. And, and it didn't look back. And so I was a kick returner. I was a defensive back. And literally, I was able to start for about 5 games. One DB came back who was, awesome, second team All-Arena. So I settled in that 4th defensive back spot where I'm running down on kickoff. I'm kick returning. I'm DB. I'm the 4th wide receiver when they need me to be, and just working my butt off and taking it as far as I could. And yeah, I got to dress every single game, and very fortunate that I was able to win my 2nd championship in the Arena League in New Orleans on ESPN, prime time kind of stuff in front of 16,000 fans. It was an awesome experience, and it was pretty cool. I run out of the tunnel, and my family got me, life's huge poster. I mean, as big as I am. I got captured in Sports Illustrated running out of the tunnel, jumping in front of 2 of the, the flames going up. It's just a purposely captured picture. So very fortunate that I was, wearing number 22 for Arena Bowl XXII, and we ended up winning the game. So just cool experiences, and very grateful for the opportunity where, again, there was a lot of players that could have been in my position.
So when you're coming off that, you're in your, little past your mid-20s, right?
Yeah. Right there, I just turned 27.
So was your mind still on like, hey, I'm going to get to the NFL, or hey, I'm going to ride this arena career route. I can, play arena for, many years.
Yeah, no, this is look, the money in the Arena Football League at that time was really good for a player. And so what literally happened after we won the championship, I got a call from the Atlanta Falcons and I got a call from the New York Giants. And I was able to work out for both teams. Didn't end up getting signed, but I was like, hey, this is something. This is something, I'm like starting to kind of hit my peak. I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling bigger. I'm around better athletes, and not a knock to any of the guys that I play with, but you just are. You're around bigger, stronger, quicker people, and it helped me become bigger, stronger, quicker. It really helped me slow the game down. I think anybody that's good at anything, the better you get at it, the more calm you are, and it becomes this kind of slow motion kind of deal, as opposed to the first year I played where I had no idea. Guys are whizzing by me. I mean, arena football is a very, very fast game. And so getting these workouts in the NFL kind of validated to me that I was on the right track. And I felt good. I signed a contract that was hefty for me, considering what I was making in the AF2. So I was like, hey, look, pay off this debt, gotta make sure I'm a little stable. And then you kind of do the math and you say, look, I'm 27. Look, I can do this for, 8, 9 more years, judging on how I treat my body and how much money I can make. And you're like, hey, this could be a career. If I get to the NFL, great. But if I don't, hey, this is an awesome place to be, and I'll do it for as long as I can.
So at that point, were you even, was coaching on your mind? I know you did a little bit of coaching in college, and
it was so far. I mean, I was so young, 27. I was just so young, and I was just like
I can play forever.
It was in the back of my mind. And again, as much as I watch and as much as I scheme, for me, I'm the guy. I was that player that was always in the room where the coach asked a question and nobody knew the answer. He'd look at me and say, Keefe, hey, what's the play call here? And I would say it, and not to disparage any of my other teammates, but that's how I thought. I just knew what was happening, when it was happening, and why it was happening. And so basically what happened to make ends meet, I'll never forget this. I mean, this is again a part of the book. I was working in Circuit City. And this is the off season of the 2008 season. So this is like November, December of 2008. About to be 2009. Signed a big contract. Philadelphia sole reigning champions. And I'm working at Circuit City. And the reason why, much like actors or other professional athletes, have a good contract, I need to train, but I need money so I can obviously support myself and pay my bills and all those kind of things. But you don't want to work another career because then you're not going to train. And I always tell that to athletes: make a certain amount of money that you need to make. But if you start working a 9 to 5 and there's no time to train, you're going to get out of shape real quick. So I was working, part-time at a Circuit City with a buddy of mine who was a good Philadelphia Soul, fan, and offered me a job about 20 hours a week. Long story short, I'm selling TVs in Circuit City when Circuit Cities were still around. It's midday. It's like 11 o'clock. Nobody's in Circuit City. I'm in the TV section with every TV turned to ESPN. I'm watching it. I'm watching literally 30 different TVs, almost like out of a movie. And I never forget that Neil Everett pops on TV, and there's an AFL logo next to him, and there's about to be a story about the AFL on TV. And I'm like, hey, this is cool. And then all of a sudden the bomb drops out in front of me. I mean, literally every TV is just like screaming at me that the AFL is now folding and ceasing operations. Look, the housing crisis, the economy was going in the tank. It was very, very evident, unfortunately, what was happening to, sports that were not the main 4 sports that you see every single day. And that was a turning point in my life. That was a big wake up call that I'm not going to have a job, no longer. The NFL wasn't calling. They were close, but the AFL was about to fold. And then you sit there and say, what are your opportunities and how do I move forward from this?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be scary too. I mean, because you only played a few years there, and so I'm taking it you probably didn't have the financial security, to like just sit and do nothing for a few years.
Well, and I think, look, and we can relate this to right now what's going on with COVID, right? For me, I look at it that at 26, 27, 28, that's really the prime of an athlete. Now, look, as we get into the future, you're seeing players that are playing a lot longer. And the reason why is because, 20 years ago, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, the technology that we have now is a little different. And this is only 12 years ago, so it really wasn't that crazy. But players can play a little bit longer. And so for me, knowing how I treat my body, look, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I eat very, very clean. I'm thinking, okay, what are other options for me to play? Because at 27, I mean, I'm in great shape. I mean, I was in the best shape of my life. I'm feeling really good. I'm bigger, stronger, quicker. I'm moving faster than I ever had at the weight that I was. So I was just so ready. And but yeah, so really what happened. I got great information from Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson, Hall of Fame wide receiver for the AFL, just an amazing player. Right now, Chris Jackson is the wide receivers coach or assistant wide receivers coach for the Chicago Bears. He's assisting Mike Fury, who's another AFL legend, who was the wide receivers coach for the Chicago Bears, with Matt Nagy, who was an AFL legend, who was the head coach. Right, so this is how this all ties in together, right? All these AFL guys. Well, we were playing together for the Philadelphia Soul, and I asked Chris, who was older than me, and I just, he's been in it a long time. I said, man, what do you think I should do? And he gave me a recommendation that I'll never forget. And he said, go to the place where people love you the most. Go to the place where you have the best relationships. And that's where you will find the most opportunity. And for me, the first thing that just clicked in my head was Spokane, Washington. What I didn't harp on, and again, it's not just me being humble, but the connection that I had to that community, it just, it was amazing. And still to this day, it is just amazing. Same connection that I have with Albany. You just, some places you just connect with people. They were the ones who gave me the nickname Key Fence. My jerseys and my shirts were sold out there. I lived in that community. I worked in that community. Still to this day, I keep up with, when I talk about Gonzaga College High School in Washington, D.C., well, Gonzaga College, the Bulldogs, is in Spokane. So I got to know the Gonzaga community out there really, really well. And so it just made sense to me. So what I thought was going to happen was I was going to play in the AF2. I said, okay, well, I'll just go back. I'll play in the AF2, take a pay cut, obviously. And then, hey, when the AFL comes back, I'll be ready to roll. The AF2 made a rule that said anybody that signed an AFL contract in 2008 after a certain date could not play in the AF2. And so I was like, well, I can't play in the AF2. Do I go play in the CFL? What do I do? Well, the Spokane Shock offered me an assistant coaching position with the Spokane Shock. And I took it with the assumption of, hey, I love coaching, but then in a year, I'll be ready to play again. And then that's when I fell in love with coaching. I realized that I was going to have an opportunity to continue this as a coach.
Well, we got some fans out there. Tom says Orlando's very fond of you. I saw Lonnie was asking where you got the Key Fence from. So that's cool.
Yeah, well, yeah. So like, for Orlando, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's just I live in Orlando. This is my home. And this is for me. To be in Spokane for the better of 5 years, and to be in Orlando for 7 years. 3 as a coach. Unfortunately, the team ceased operation when I was a coach, and so I had to kind of transition. But to go to Albany, the same kind of things. It's just you realize there's so many great people around the country. There's so many people that just love arena football. But it's really all about community. If they loved, kangaroos on pogo sticks, I'd be coaching that. Whatever it is. I mean, it's all about just interacting with people and making people feel good. I'll probably be the only coach that'll ever tell you that this is entertainment, and my job is to put forth a great product that makes people feel that their time, energy, and the money that they're spending is worthwhile. And hopefully, they go away with any game that I've coached or any game that I'm a part of, saying, "Hey, that was a good time," and that's why I do it.
As a owner, team president, I mean, I always appreciated, coaches that get, the community aspect side of it, because, as an owner or executive with the team, I mean, people don't want to see me. They want to see the coach. They want to see the players. And when you have a group that buys into, community first, you see such great results. And I think you saw it in Spokane and even Albany with the fan support. The fans, they create like an attachment and, a connection with you and the players. And I think it's needed to be successful. And so anytime I'm dealing with a coach that is like, I need this, like some of these guys, they just want these absurd appearance fees and stuff. It just doesn't support it. And
you're right. And I think too, there's just a fine balance. Like, so right now, look, I'd like to say that I'm a humble guy and I'm all about community, and I am. But then when it's time to play some football, I'm going to put game face on and we're going to get down to business here. But I think for me, those communities in Spokane, Orlando, and Albany, I've been very fortunate to have 12, 13, 14,000 people in the building. But I think that's a direct correlation in terms of how we do relates to the community. And it's all about grassroots. It's all about building stuff up. It's all about doing things, in the schools, in the hospitals, barbecues with the fans, whatever it might be. And all of those organizations, when I was a part of them, did those things. And so I kind of learned and I kind of formulated a plan with the organizations and the teams that I'm with. There's a certain formula to follow, and there's a certain way to do it. And it's also about signing a particular player too. Not just a player who's good at football, but someone who, again, is going to be highlighted. And they might not know you when your helmet is on because, your helmet's on, they can't identify with you, but we do need to get that helmet off. We do need to get you out and about in the community. And I want you to relate to these people. And then again, when they start realizing, the fans realize we don't live on a house on a hill. This is a very community-oriented sports league. That's where I think the connections start coming in play. And again, it's awesome. Look, I would not be here if it wasn't for fans. If fans don't buy the product, I don't have a job. So I'm very aware of that. And you always want to make sure you're doing right by the fans.
Yeah. Number one. Hey, Kevin Wilson, he is from the DC area. He wants to know if you'll eventually get into upper management, executive, or ownership.
Well, that's an awesome question. I appreciate that. I'm thinking about it. I am. I literally had this conversation the other day with ownership and just talking about those things. I think as you coach as long as I have, and again, been very fortunate that it's kind of weird. If I played longer, I wouldn't have coached as long. So right. The only reason why I coached as long as I have, and look, again, very fortunate to be a head coach at the age of 29 years old. I was very, very fortunate. I actually signed a contract at 28 years old. So again, gotten a lot of experience. But for me, and I always say this to players when I talk to my guys, I always tell them, look, you're going to be coaches. It's just a matter of time. So retain and suck up as much information as you possibly can. And so when you're a player, you kind of see the behind the scenes of what a coach does, and you kind of get this formula of how you would coach. And then when you're a coach, you see what the team presidents and the general managers and the ownership does, and you start to formulate that plan. So I do feel like I have a good hold on if I did make that next jump. Obviously, ownership means I got to make a lot more money, to invest in that. But I do see upper management in terms of selling the game in the best way I possibly can. Eventually in the future, I don't think soon, because I still have a lot to accomplish, I think, coaching-wise. I still have a goal of coaching in the NFL. I'm not shy of saying that. I definitely want to kind of manifest that in my mind. But again, all about the journey. I love arena football. Super pumped about the NAL. But I do see myself furthering, the NAL with my information, the knowledge, and anybody that wants to sit down with me so I can help all these markets grow and to help in any way I possibly can.
Well, and I think it's important is to have that collaboration, and we've kind of been talking about that almost on every episode so far of NAL Live. It's like, hey, when it's game time, it's game on. Let's talk a little shit. Let's get aggressive. After the game, hey, it's over. Off season, we have to work together. We have to help each other because we're only as strong as our weakest link, and that is so true. And so I really liked what I saw coming out of the league meetings a few weeks ago. There's just so much potential, and everything is kind of headed in that right direction. So I think it's an exciting time.
And it is. And I think eventually you get to the point where you're just sharing best practices, so who is your director of communications? Who's your game day operations director? Who's your ticketing manager, whatever the titles might be. What works in this for this franchise in this community? What works there? Share this information, help each other grow. That's what this is all about. And then again, national sponsorships have a footprint, nationally, whatever it might be, just, doing things the right way. But you're exactly right. Sharing as much information as possible to help everyone. But again, there is a formula to it. There is a formula to it. No matter how big or small the budget is, there's a right way to go about this to make, these organizations successful. And I'm glad we're getting all on the same page to really make this grow. And again, going back to the fans, it's because of the fan support we have and for the love of the game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Albany is kind of one of those unique markets, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But when you were, you were on 2 championship, teams as a player. You were around some great coaches, that had a lot of success. Even if you didn't win the championship every year, you guys were solid, every year. What did you kind of learn the most about, like what contributed to the success? Like, and how did you take that from, as a player, you see the coaching staff and the organization do it, to yourself when you're the head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked this a lot because, again, at that stage, let's say, just from a younger a player who's a younger coach, what did I learn? From, for the last 12 years, I've learned so much. But at that stage, the biggest thing that I learned going into my first year, there was a particular kind of player that I really wanted to settle on. There was a particular kind of player that had, selflessness, the love of the game. It's the ultimate team sport. And I think I hate to use the word prima donna because, again, you need confident players. You need dogs out there. You need people that really, really believe in themselves. But there is that love of the game, the love of the work, the process. And so there's certain questions, without giving too much away, that I ask, in the initial interviews of when I'm kind of just, it seems like I'm just kind of naturally talking to a player, but I'm really trying to get some key indicators of what I think this person is going to be. And again, we do a lot of background checks and how is this player as a person? Look, a simple one is this. When somebody scores a touchdown, when you're watching film, watch how that person celebrates if he is not the one that scores the touchdown. And that tells you a lot about a person. And those kind of things, those little kind of key indicators. But anyway, that's how I knew about the players. But then the coach, what I learned was literally the process of what Sunday night all the way till Saturday night is going to be. And literally, when I got to Philadelphia, I really started honing in that. I saw a championship season through and through, what the process is like, how to break down film properly, how practices are structured, what I liked, and again, what I didn't like. There were some things that I didn't like too. I wouldn't do that, or I do that differently. And you start to kind of formulate your own plan. But I think the biggest thing behind it is just the love of the game, and everybody that's involved is selfless. Look, being a leader is tough. Being a leader, people are not always gonna like you. Competitors are gonna despise you. The selfish are gonna try to undermine you. People that don't want to be held accountable will question you. You got to find people that want to be held accountable, and you got to find people that are selfless, and you got to put all those people together. And so you get a whole bunch of people like that together. I mean, all the way down to an intern. You're going to have yourself a great organization where even if you don't win the championship, you're always going to put yourself in a position to be successful.
So it's all making sense to me now. When I first started talking to you, you were asking me questions. And so you were sizing me up to see if you were going to sign me. And
I was, man. I was sizing you up, man. I mean, and look, even when it comes to just how people interact, how people interact with one another. And I mean, think about, in the Arena Football League, guys live together. We travel together. I mean, you become a family, and sometimes you can't choose that family. So how well is that team going to come together? And look, from a college perspective, I wasn't on winning teams. We were in my early AF2 days. I mean, those are great stories of me, getting on teams, but we weren't juggernauts. We were losing a lot of games. And, some of those are the games I needed to see of what not to do or how I wouldn't act. Or if I was a coach, this is how I would handle that situation. I think right now, I hate saying this because I never want to kick somebody when there's down. But, the Washington football team right now with Dwayne Haskins, Ron Rivera just released a first-round draft pick. It was, only 23 years old, but for the betterment of the team. And sometimes, you're going to get hit in the media and people don't understand what you're doing. But if you get everyone that puts the team first, ultimately you're going to be a successful unit.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. And we got some more fans in here. We got Rob up in Albany. He's excited to get the season started. He's got great photos, man.
He is, man. Rob's the man. He has great photos. And that's the thing about Albany, too. I mean, going to that, and hopefully these other NAL coaches can relate, that any place that I've been, it's such a great community feel that you have people that, I interact with everyone. I interact with the photographers, the guys that are holding the first down markers, the guys that are doing the scoreboards, the interns, families, intern moms are making us cookies. We have a team mom, like all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's really, I think, how inviting you can be ultimately brings that whole community feel to it. And that's really what makes, arena football go.
Yeah, no, and everybody I talk to up there, yeah, same thing. Coach Keefe. Yeah, whatever. No, no, you got LaRoche. Thanks for the opportunity. Got a lot of people kind of popping on here, too. Larry Beavers.
Great players, man. LJ, Larry Beavers, all these guys, man. And so, it's cool too. And it goes back to what you said, the Arena Football family is such a small group of people. You know what I mean? I mean, it's large, but it really, really is small. And so these guys have either played for me or played against me. I've always had great love for anyone that's played Arena Football. I mean, there's some guys out there I know that just hate me. I mean, just downright hate me. And you're like, look, I get it. Like, I hate you too when it comes to competition. But I love that we're trying to make this thing go when it comes to football, and we can all love each other when it's all said and done. And we've had some great battles, and it's awesome. I just love the fact that these guys are being able to continue their careers, and that's why I'm so excited for this season to get going. Because last year again, kind of like me, you're 27, well, you become 28 real quick, and I don't want these guys losing more years of, for lack of a better term, their eligibility, because you only can play for so long.
So you talked about Dwayne Haskins. Would you sign him? Evan has that question.
Look, I'll tell this. I mean, Dwayne's going to have a great career. I think every football player, or every person really, goes through times in your life, I think, that are tough. Again, I think when we're kind of talking about Dwayne Haskins, again, I'll say this. It was tough originally. I said this. I'm not really a big tweeter. I don't really tweet all my feelings out. But it's tough when you draft a player, in my opinion, in the NFL that is from that city. And, there's a lot of people that will be around you. Like Dwayne Haskins is from the Washington, D.C. area, got drafted by the Washington football team. If Dwayne Haskins got drafted by Minnesota, there's not an entourage of people around him. And not saying that, they're bad people by any means, but there are a lot of people that you grew up with that are now all of a sudden, trying to get at you and come at you. And, you're being pulled from the wrong direction and you're put up on a pedestal. And sometimes as a young player, that can go to your head if you don't have the right people around you. But again, didn't do anything illegal, not a bad person by any means. I think he's going to have a long career. He'll end up going somewhere else. Look, I see things trendy that are happening beforehand. Look, if Urban Meyer goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're probably going to draft Trevor Lawrence. Dwayne Haskins would probably be a great backup quarterback because of the relationship that Urban had with him in Ohio State. So, it's always going to work out. I think for us, who I look at, we can say like Johnny Manziel, who I think his career is done. But what I do is, if you get cut in the NFL, normally it's about a 2-year removal to play in the Arena Football leagues because there's still an opportunity where those guys can get back into on a team. But if a player is cut at 24 and all of a sudden he hasn't played till he's 26, that's when you'll see those players that need another shot to get game film to get back up into the NFL. And that's where we come in. And that's how I sell it. That's how a lot of these other NAL coaches sell it. Hey, an opportunity to get game film. Yes, it's not that much money. Yes, there's going to be a little humbling that needs to be done because you're not playing for millions of dollars. But you can actually create yourself an opportunity by killing this league and getting to the next level by showing your humility and still your athletic ability to compete at a high level. And, we've done that before. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but well over 100 players that I've coached over the last 12 years that have had opportunities to have workouts in the NFL. And some get them, some don't. But at least they get that opportunity because they were able to play for an Arena football team.
Well, we got coaches from all around the league, kind of tuning in. We got Mookie. I know they're not playing this season. He's he's a
fired up guy, man. I do research on him too. He's a pumped up dude, man. He's a big pumped up guy. I wouldn't want to meet him in an alley. I'll tell you that.
I mean, look at those arms on that photo, man.
Well, and two, it's awesome to see too because everybody has a different style. There's a coach. I won't say his name, but there's a coach that's now coaching in the NFL. And he coached. I coached for him in arena football, and he came up to me and he was like, "Look, Rob, you got to kind of tone down, my antics." And for me, I'm just pumped up. I'm always going to chest bump my players. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit older, so the vertical leap isn't as quite there as it used to be. Yeah, it's like it's you have to slide a piece of paper under it now, but it was interesting to me where I was told, hey, look, you see NFL coaches more reserved. And I thought about those things. I thought about those things and I took it to heart. I wasn't offended, but I was like, look, at the end of the day, this is me. Like, I don't drink caffeine. This is just how I am as a human being. And I don't want to change who I am because I have such a love for the game. But there is this kind of thing where, like Coach Zimmerman, like guys like us, we're so pumped up and it's all natural. It's all fun. It's all good. And so I do think about those things. I do think about the different styles that coaches have. Some are really reserved. Some are pumped up. Some are energetic like me. But I think as long as you're putting your best foot forward, like it's all good. And it's exciting. I like competing against good coaches, energetic coaches. And, everybody is different in their coaching styles. And it's going to be cool to compete. Look, against guys that I know have wanted to compete against me. I'm not stupid. And, in no way do I mean this as a slight to anyone. I was an AFL coach. Now we're all in this NAL together. I appreciate the opportunity. There's a lot of coaches who have coached in the NAL who've been waiting for an AFL or whatever opportunity. Well, they want to beat me. I realize, like, when we play, we're going to beat everybody.
Target.
Look, that's cool, man. I get it. And I welcome it, and I'm really excited about it, too, because I think it's going to make for some awesome games.
Yeah, no, and it's, hopefully, the Rough Riders come back. I know, Mookie's done a great job up there. I haven't been around the league with those guys, but I hear they're big shit talkers too. So that always makes it fun.
See, I think to me, and I want to give respect to these guys. So what we would do is, look, there's a lot of leagues out there. I mean, there really, really are. And so the best way I describe it, if somebody doesn't know what arena football is, I mean, obviously I'm thinking everybody watching this probably does, but if they don't, I always describe it. If I go to a new market, I start off by saying, look, it's like we're like AAA baseball. We're like AA baseball right now. That's what this is. And so you have so many players and you have so many good coaches, but really everybody is very aware of who the good players are, who the good coaches are, whether you're in the same league or not. We're all very aware of the coaching styles of what they do. And so that's been a benefit too of some of these, these video formats that we can click onto and I can watch. And that's what we did. Me and Coach Moss, when we had some downtime, I'd watch an NAL football game. I'd watch, other league football games. We'd get some ideas. We'd scout some players. So, and then again, too, say, hey, I really like what that coach is doing. I can tell that coach, he just won 8 games in a row, whatever it might be. We're all very aware of each other. And again, I think that goes back to the brotherhood that there is, that we're all aware of, everybody and what everybody's doing.
Evan is worried about the cheerleaders. Are they coming back this season?
Hey, look, who's not worried about cheerleaders, right? It's really interesting to me, too, when you watch NFL games. A lot of people don't realize there's not that many, there's a lot of teams that don't have cheerleaders. Green Bay Packers, Minnesota, there's a lot of teams. Cleveland Browns. But anyway, I mean, that's just me being the ownership side of things and the management side. I'm very aware of all those things. But, no, we had great dancers. They really were. They were unbelievable. But, yeah, we'll have everything going. I mean, I think that's part of the show, too. And I never want to knock that as well. I'm very proud to be, a coach. I'm very proud of the players, but there's so many other people that make this thing go. And that's another thing too. I think why the organizations that I've been with have been very successful. It's not just a family with the team. It's the entire organization and support staff, photographers and front office staff members and interns and dancers. It all makes it go. It really, really does. And again, those are people who buy tickets as well. The dancers' family are going to come just like the players' family are going to come support. So everybody's aware of everyone. And everyone's a big family, and we really know each other really well. I mean, Albany is a great testimony to that it's the capital of New York, but it's a small community where everybody really knows everyone. So we're super proud. I was pumped up. Look, I'd go to the dance team finals, and the dance coach and the general manager wanted me to speak to the dancers, and I got them pumped up before they had their finals. And those are things I appreciate too, because we want to get the best out of everybody. So yeah, I know they're going to do a great job, and a lot of great dancers in that area.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know I keep kind of bouncing around because we have questions that pop up and trying to, stay with the fans. But tell us, because we kind of stopped where you had your first year assistant coaching, and so you wanted to go back and play, after that. How did you end up getting that first head coaching gig?
Yeah, and look, and I'm so truthful. Like, that for me, look, I feel like I'm do a lot of podcasts, been doing interviews for a very, very long time. That this for me is something that I'm so glad to speak about. So what happened is this. So in 2009, I became an assistant coach for the Spokane Shock, and we win the Arena Cup. So I win the Arena Cup as an assistant coach, and again, coaching the defensive backs, coaching special teams. We did an amazing job. We were 15-1 in a 16-game season, ran through the playoffs, won the championship game in Las Vegas against Coach Moss, who, I was like to rub that in on him. But we won by 50 points in Las Vegas, again, going down there as a business trip, not there to have fun kind of thing, but just a great season. So in 4 years, so 2006, 2008, and 2009, I was a part of championship seasons. And I was a captain of one of those teams. I was a role player of one of those teams, and I was assistant coach of one of those teams. And so we then recognized as an organization, as a league, that the AF2 was no longer going to exist, that the AFL was going to come back in 2010. So who and what teams were going to jump into the AFL, and what AFL teams were going to come back into the AFL, who was going to merge with who, all these things were kind of going on. Well, in the works, we hear as a coaching staff that they were, as a Spokane Shock group, are going to make a change to another coach. And so that's kind of where I came involved, where I realized, hey, and it's okay if they thought, hey, we are just AF2 coaches. Now the AFL, the big boys, if you will, we're going to come in. Were they going to go into another coach? And so for me, it got to the point where, hey, if we're all going to get fired, even though we just won the AF2 championship, not a knock on management by any means, but realizing, hey, this is the next step. Why not me throw my hat in the ring? And so having these interviews, I become the next head coach of the Spokane Shock to kind of, garner in this AFL 2010 season. Well, I got a lot of questions of, well, heck, man, you were just an assistant coach in the 2019. Coach Adam Shackelford was a 2009 coach, the head coach. What happened to him? Did you stab him in the back? And look, those were really hard questions to answer. I mean, I'll never forget. I sat down. It was like a 60 minutes primetime special with one of the Spokane, nightly news anchors, and kind of I wasn't expecting those questions, but answered them very truthfully. I said, look, it's either I was going to be here, as a head coach, or we weren't going to be here as a unit. And it was tough. And so sometimes you lose relationships in this business. And so maybe looking back on it, I probably wouldn't do that again, and that's something that you learn as a coach, where at 28 years old, of course, I'm going to jump at the chance to be head coach in the AFL. But yeah, I mean, because then you have to kind of shake the stigma of, well, what did he do to get the job? Did he stab somebody in the back? So when I heard those things, it then kind of instills already a fire that I have to begin with of, I got to be the best, because now everybody's going to say, hey, well, if he fails, well, hey, they made a bad decision. I never want anybody that hires me to think that they made a bad decision by hiring me. So then, and that's kind of thing where the humbleness comes in, where just because you get a job doesn't mean you get to keep it. And so for me, long story short, we win the championship. I was the youngest head coach ever to win a championship in the AFL, or a professional sports league, at 29 years old. We went 13-3. We won the championship on our home field against the Tampa Bay Storm, an awesome venue on the NFL Network. Kurt Warner was calling the game. It was great. And so that was kind of like my coming out party. That was like, okay, Keefe he can coach, and then I heard things too. Keefe is just young. He got lucky. And then that was kind of like, all right, well, I just have to continue to prove yourself, because that's what it is, man. That's the world, but it was a great learning experience. Great players, kind of had this underdog mentality the whole year. We went 2-2, and people were really questioning me if I knew what I was doing. And then, we rattled off, 11 wins in a row. And then we lost the last one because we kind of rested everybody. That's not a knock, but, we already had the first seed kind of wrapped up, but just a really great season, sellout crowds, and really put me on the map as a coach.
So kind of walk us through your head coaching experience from then and up until your time with Albany.
Yeah, and so great learning lessons on this journey. So really, it was the last decade, really the last, and you say decade, but it's 11 seasons. But 2010 head coach in Spokane, 2011 head coach in Spokane, and then we parted ways. And my contract was not renewed, and it was a shock to me. It hurt, at the time, because I'm a 30-year-old head coach. I felt like I gained my experience by being in Spokane, got the nickname, man, winning championships with Spokane. And then when you're no longer the guy, it does hurt. It does sting. But for me, really the divorce, if you will, from that was I wanted things to be on a bigger scale. I was very, I would say, difficult to work with. But yeah, I was a guy that, assuming when you win a championship, well, now, hey, the contracts are going to get bigger. We're going to have bigger sponsors. Let's put more money into this. And you realize it's a business. And that was my learning lesson of how to deal with ownership, how to deal with general managers, how to be, I think, symbiotic in a way of, hey, we can do this on a budget. We don't have to be. And I was very pushy too. Like I wanted things a certain way. I was, very, that coach's mentality on the field. I took it into the kind of the boardroom, and that was me being like, hey man, you're difficult to work with. And so I grew up, and that was okay. And so what happened then was I came to Orlando. A lot of people don't know I had a stint as an offensive coordinator in Orlando in 2012. Brett Muncie, who again with the Washington Redskins was my head coach with the Philadelphia Soul, hired me as the offensive coordinator of the Orlando Predators in 2012. And man, we started off 0-3. Offense went nowhere. People thought I was just a defensive coach, but I wanted to prove, hey, I'm a man of all seasons, if you will. And man, I got fired. And that was another wake-up call too. Here I don't get re-signed back by the Spokane Shock. Contracts renewed or not renewed. And then I get, 3 games into a season, we're 0-3. I'm the scapegoat, and that's okay. We still have a great relationship to this day. Talked to Muncie the other week, Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. Happy holidays. It's part of the business. So then what happens is the Utah Blaze, I sit at home for a little bit. Home base is Myrtle Beach, is where my brother lives. So we got a place down there. So I'm kind of hanging out with him, and you kind of licking your wounds. You're like, man, but again, I think what made me feel good is I was like, I'm 30 years old. These are all great experiences, even though, it sucks at the time, but you learn a lot in that moment. I never shy away from any adverse situation, no matter how hard it might be. And then what happens is Utah. The Utah Blaze, coached by Ron James, who just recently coached, but they had a defense that was really, really struggling. And they're putting up 70, 80 points a game. Matt Salk, who was my offensive coordinator in Spokane that we won a championship with, was the offensive coordinator there. They wanted to make a change of defensive coordinator. So they make a change of defensive coordinator, and they hire me. And so I come in at 6-5 for the Utah Blaze. And then that was an 18-game season in 2012. And we actually ended up finishing we finished 12-6. So by hiring me, we went 6-1. We might have been 5-4. We might have gone 7-1. We actually end up losing really on the heartbreaking fashion on the last play of the game to the Arizona Rattlers in the conference championship to go into the championship to play the Philadelphia Soul. But that was my beginning stages of being with the Utah Blaze. Was out there for 2 seasons as the assistant coach, defensive coordinator. Loved every minute of it. Got to work with Ron James, Matt Salk again, who I love. And then Coach Ron McBride, who was the head coach of the University of Utah for a very, very long time, Hall of Fame college coach, was our offensive line coach. So really got to pick his brain as a seasoned mentor in a way. He called me Pogo because I was always bouncing off the walls. That was his nickname for me. And then, what happened after 2 successful seasons with the Utah Blaze as a D coordinator, kind of, stepped back, regrouped. I want to be a head coach again, kind of, humbling experience, much like a lot of coaches do. That's when the Orlando Predators called in 2013 to be their coach for the 2014 season. And then I became the head coach of the Orlando Predators from 2014 through 2016. So 3 seasons, made the playoffs every single year, won the conference twice, and never made it though. And that's a big regret that I have for the Orlando Predators. We were never able to make it to a championship, even with the great teams that we had. Ran into Jacksonville, buzzsaw a couple times, Philadelphia buzzsaw, just great back and forth battles, great coaches, great staffs. And then after 2016, the team ceased operation, unfortunately, and there was only 4 teams left in the AFL, and all the coaching jobs were taken. And I took a step back and I stayed in Orlando. In 2017, for me, was coaching youth football and coaching high school football. I joined a nonprofit as well called Clean the World. And I became a product manager. And for that purpose was to help my business skills. And I wanted to get better. I wanted to get better at sponsorships. I want to get better at sales. I wanted to get better at, knowing product management. And, I wanted to get better as a person. And it was awesome, man. We finished 4th in the state in Florida at the school that I was coaching. We won a national championship with a youth organization, the best 14U organization in the AAU in the country. And it was awesome. And then after that, Albany called, and the rest is history. Been with the Albany Empire the last 3 years and got to win a championship. And another great example of another awesome community that's welcomed me in.
So let's talk about the Empire for the upcoming season, because a lot of people ask. I see it online. Talk to us about the roster and the players and kind of what you're putting together, what you can talk about at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So Coach Moss, first and foremost, our assistant head coach, is unbelievable at personnel. And so we watch film all day long. The goal right now, I think for probably every NAL coach is, do you go with an older player who knows about arena football to step in there right away and obviously everybody needs coaching, but they know the game. Another factor about that is, hey, what if you go really, really young and you have a lot of young players? Then you really got to teach the game. And then there's kind of some ups and downs. And so what I like to do is I like to have a good mix of both. The older players that we get in, obviously they're great players. Everybody's going to be an athlete. We've never signed a player that we don't feel, that can make the team. Everybody, a lot of players ask that. Well, hey, do you think I'll start? And I said, well, every player that I sign, I do hopefully can start. I wouldn't sign you if I didn't think you could start. So every coach has that conversation. But again, it's okay to ask that. I know players are eager and they want to know where they stand. So for me, it's kind of that healthy combination of young, energetic player that's learning, that's on the come up, that maybe did not have, like myself, that shot in the NFL, but is worthy of getting that shot. And then you have a veteran indoor football player, no matter what league they played in, they can play at a high level, but is also going to be a good mentor to these younger players that can teach them the game. You don't have so many coaches in the arena football league. So for me, what we're doing right now is we're solidifying our coaching staff. That'll be solidified here shortly. We'll start conducting interviews, the right way. We have a lot of good candidates, guys that I've coached, guys that I've coached against, a lot of cool stuff in that regard. And then from a player's perspective, it's always ever changing. It's always building. And so what I think you'll see is a lot of players are waiting to see, I think, what happens from a league perspective. And everybody is. Look, the elephant in the room is always going to be COVID. That's okay. Those are okay conversations. Just like any other business, we're going to put our best foot forward. And I think a lot of players are trying to figure out, what and who are the best team to sign with, what gives me the best opportunity to make it to the next level. What is the competition going to be like? What coaches do I want to be like? So we'll probably have here in probably the next 4 weeks, we'll probably have about 35 players signed, which we're really excited about. Me and Coach Moss talk every single day. We meet every single day and break down this film, but we'll always be a highly passionate, super athletic, very knowledgeable team, and we'll teach it the right way. And then again, the goal is to put on a great show, for Albany. And then as we travel, obviously we want to put on a great show for these other fans too. And we want to make sure that we are able to spread this product the best way we possibly can.
What city are you most looking forward to traveling to?
Well, again, I'm such a diplomat. When I give my answers, right?
Man,
everybody's a great city.
Dirty.
I know, man. It's just like I've become a politician the older I get. But for me, I think it would be pretty cool for me living in Orlando to come to Orlando. Look, I've coached against Spokane, in Spokane, and I think the thing I appreciate the most is when I go back to a place that I've coached or have lived in or I've played for.
It's always
it's awesome love. They're gonna they heckle you, but they treat me so well where it's like they're gonna get on me, but they're not gonna take it too far, which I always appreciate. But it's awesome because I'll get to see some family. Some people will be in the crowd. But again, look, I have so many relationships everywhere. And I think any player can attest to this. When everybody starts to know your schedule and everybody starts to figure out you could be coming to their possibly town or town close to their city or whatever, you're going to have friends that reach out. And that's what I really love about going on. For me, when I get to travel, somebody might have not even contacted me that got tickets just to be close and say hi again to me. I've always appreciated that kind of stuff. And but it'll be pretty cool. Again, my family's from the DC area. So hopefully they can get to New Jersey, come down to, Carolina. So that's, not too far of a drive. My brother lives in Myrtle Beach, so that'll be cool. I have 4 nieces and nephews, so that'll be cool to play in front of them. But it's all good environments. It really is. Jacksonville has a great environment, so it'll be fun to play against all these teams.
Well, fans, we've got a few minutes left with Coach Keefe, so fire out any other questions.
That's it? I didn't know there was a timeline on this. I was ready to go. I could talk.
There's really not. I mean, every time you and I are on the phone, it's like at least an hour and a half.
Hey, man, when you love what you do, it's so easy to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's always fun. But I saw James posted. Did they return to the Amway Center? Yes, the Predators are back in the Amway Center. Season is looking great. So, okay, you live in Orlando now, plus you've coached here. What's your go-to spot? Like if you and I were going to go have lunch, where would we be meeting?
Well, so that's a good question. So basically, it's so funny when I'm in Albany too, or I was in Utah, whenever I get these questions, Orlando, I always will back sponsors. Like that's how I am, right? So anybody that sponsors you, hey, that's the best, whatever.
A sponsor place and a non-sponsor place.
Yeah, right. That's how you do it. So for me, I think this. I'm actually a big foodie. So one thing, I'm really big into music. I'm big in food. I do enjoy travel. So that's one. Like my dream job would be like a very, Anthony Bourdain, may he rest in peace. Kind of, the parts unknown, travel all across the world, talk about sports and culture. Eat food with whoever the local politician or the actor or whoever might be from that. I just enjoy that stuff. So I really enjoy food. So what I try to do is I eat very clean, Sunday through Friday, work out like 6 days a week. But that Saturday,
what does that mean?
That Saturday's always something. That Saturday's always like it's a burger, it's a pizza, it's a taco, it's some Asian food. I always kind of rotate these. And the one thing about Orlando that's awesome, it really is a foodie city. New York's like that too. I mean, a great plethora of choices to choose from. So it really depends on my mood, man. But recently, I tell you what, I've been eating ham sandwiches and potato boats from Christmas for about the last 5 days. Put on a good 10 pounds, man. So I got to get back on the cardio here.
I like what Large is saying here, man. Ruth Chris, that's a good spot. There's a couple locations locally.
Can't go wrong, man.
You say eating clean. What does that mean? Because I eat clean too, I think.
So everybody always asks me too, from the energy for me, it comes, look, as a coach, I learned very early, as a player too, that my output is always going to be based on how I eat, based on how I sleep. Really it's about balance. And so winning a championship in 2010, I really wanted to replicate how to do that again. And so I didn't get to, look, I won a championship in 2006, 2008, 2009, and 2010. And then I went 8 years, without winning a championship. And for me, it was, and a lot of coaches can agree with this. I mean, I was 18-hour days. I was wearing myself out. I weigh 210 pounds now, very healthy, not heavy. It's a great weight for me to be at, feel strong, feel healthy. At the end of the Spokane Shock season, when I was a head coach, I was down to 163 pounds. And I wore myself out. I looked like I was sick. And so I finally found that balance again where eating healthy and not taking naps and not staying up till 4 a.m. watching film and then waking up at 5:30 in the morning for practice. Like I was a mess by the end of the season. So in Albany, I really got back to the transition of just healthy breakfast, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, no red meat, white meat, portion controlled kind of things, no matter how hungry I am. Don't eat too late. Make sure I get a full 8 hours of sleep. That kind of stuff, I really started recognizing that my energy levels were even higher than they used to be. And that helped me. I mean, that helped the team. It helped me be unselfish, to put myself first so I can help the team be the best it can be by me being healthy.
So basically what you're saying is we're only going out to eat on the weekends, because I'm not going
Saturdays,
through all that. I mean,
so the balance comes on Saturdays for me. And so look, after the game, I'll sit down, I'll have whatever. Me and Coach Moss, all the coaching staff, will go out, man. I'll have wings, whatever it is. But Sunday morning when I wake back up, it's healthy salads, it's detox, it's getting back right. And yeah.
All right. So, hey, Shaq has a question here for you. Best offensive lineman you ever coached or played with?
Oh man, I'm such a diplomat, man. It's so hard. I got asked that after we won a championship. And
Did he play for you?
Well, no, Shaq did not. But great player, And look, for me, it's every year. We've been very fortunate that last year in Albany in 2019, we had the lineman of the year in Ryan Keefe. Awesome player. We had Jordan Mudge, who was also there, could have easily been the offensive lineman of the year. Michael Benson, fullback. We had an unbelievable line. Our quarterback, Tommy Grady, I want to say, was only sacked 2 times. Chris right there is saying Ed Tiamu in Spokane, first team, all AF2, and then he had a great AFL career. So there's guys that I played with. Look, Phil Bogle, when I was in Philadelphia with the Soul, Phil Bogle played for the Chargers. He was drafted by the Chargers. Phil Bogle right now is the director of game day operations for the NFL. So again, a product of my career has been with amazing players. There's no way that as a coach, as a player, that I could have won any of these championships without being very fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of these people.
When you decide to finally run for office, I'll work in your campaign. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, we'll run on the Arena platform. Arena for everyone will be the slogan.
Yeah. I don't know if these guys played for you or what. They want love.
I'm laughing at this question by Tevin Homer right now. So Tevin Homer, what does he say? He's asked who's his favorite player from 2019. He wants me to say him, and of course I'm going to say him because he asked that question. But look, I get so close to these players. I think the toughest thing is this. I've loved every player that I've ever coached, and I say that a lot. And some players don't believe me when I say that. I've had some players that they think that I'm just saying that to get the best out of them. But I'm so grateful that they chose the teams that I coached. Look, we can't draft these players, so they sign to your team. So they much like a college, they have to really believe in us to sign with us. I am very honored when they do that. And then really what hurts is when you then have the professionalism of cutting a player or trading a player. I mean, that really is difficult. And I try to do it as respectfully as I possibly can. And then to see a player maybe hate you in that moment, but then see them have success elsewhere. I'm so proud of that. I've been cut, I've been traded, and it's made me stronger. I've been fired from a job. I've been fired as a coach. I've been not re-signed to a team that I loved, and it makes you stronger. But Tevin asking that question, I mean, when you win a championship with a team, I mean, it's relationships for life, and it's memories that you'll never forget.
Yep.
He's crying right now. I love that guy. I do. Look, Tevin, he won't tell you, man. Tevin's an amazing player. His brother right now is a running back, Travis Homer from Seattle, for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, these guys, they come from unbelievable athletic families. It's awesome to see them having success.
So Sean says he sees you at Jimmy's Eggs. What do you order there?
First off, Sean should say hi to me when he sees me at Jimmy's Eggs. Yes, I do. So I have a routine. So at Jimmy's Eggs in Albany, what I do is before the game, so if a game starts at 7:00, I'm in the building at about 2:30. And so what I do is I wake up, get a lot of sleep the night before. The hay is in the barn is what you would say, because it's all in. There's no more I can do from coaching the players. It's more formulating my plan. But part of my routine is I go to Jimmy's Eggs about 10:00. I get the same thing. Fruit. I get my eggs. I get my English muffin. A little bit of bacon on the side. Carb load, if you will, to get the energy going. Orange juice, and I'm in there for about 30 minutes, and just eat to get it in me, and then the day starts, and that's part of the routine. But that's also being involved in the community. And I'm not comparing myself to an NFL coach, but it's rare that you would have that. And so I love that we get to do that I get to be at a local establishment, get my head right, and seeing fans in there. and fans saying, "Hi, Coach Keefe," and they have their Albany gear on. Hey, I can't wait to see you at the game. It's awesome, man. And Sean's a great supporter, a great member of the Capital City community and region community. It's awesome to know these faces and to see people support us.
So when you go there, what do you go by yourself?
I go by myself. Yeah, I'm in the zone, man. Go by myself. I always sit at the diner. It was the awesome people that take care of me, Jimmy's Eggs. They say the usual. They put it right in front of me, and I slam it, and then I'm off to the next journey. And I'm a guy that has a routine on game day. Got to be in the car at a certain time. Got to listen to certain music. Got to wear certain things. Got to have a kind of a certain routine. And then before you know it, it's game time, and you put your best foot forward.
Well, we've got some guys here that forgave you, but damn.
Can they tell that I can see these? I can see these comments. This is hilarious. So look, Quentin Sims. This is a great example. Quentin Sims, an amazing wide receiver in the Arena Football League. Killed it in college. Played for the New England Patriots. I'll never forget. In 2014, was with us in Orlando. And Sia Burley, who was our offensive coordinator, we both really, really liked Quentin. It was unfortunate we didn't have any room, and we realized we were cutting a very good player. Well, Quentin found a great home in Cleveland for the Cleveland Gladiators with Colin Taylor and all these awesome guys, and they ended up, just dominating and killing it. And that's one of those guys you wish you had back. But here's a great story about this. We cut him in 2014 for the Orlando Predators, but he was able to see enough in me, the genuineness, to then come and recognize we have a great team in Albany. And so those are the relationships of not burning bridges. That's a really smart guy right there, too. I'll tell you what, have some great conversations with him. But just that's what this is all about. And I'm telling you, hopefully these guys, what they see in me, they'll see themselves. They'll become football coaches. I follow them on Instagram. I follow them on social media and seeing what they're doing with their families. They're at that next stage. I think you'll see that 34-year-old, 35-year-old, they're trying to figure out what's the next segment. Is it coaching? Is it athletic training? Is it teaching? Quentin right there is going to be a lawyer. That guy was going to law school during camp with us. That's how smart that guy was. And so to see him do that and then become an all AFL player and win a championship with the Albany Empire, it's awesome. And then you got Benson right there. Michael Benson, the fullback. Hall of Famer right there. These guys.
Who got cut in 2016? Because we got 14, 15. Let's see if we can get every year.
I tell you, look, and see, that's the thing too. The better the team you have, the harder these cuts are. But it's awesome to see the success. What I want, no matter what league we're playing in, I think the best thing for me is I want this to grow. I really do. Look, when you talk about the Albany Empire coming back, what I told our owners, what I appreciated is it's economic opportunity. We get to hire coaches, we get to hire players. Players are making, you get to hire front office, everybody's making a salary. But if you have 12, 15, 20 teams in this league, in other leagues, whatever they might be, it's more coaches, it's more players, it's more opportunity. That's what I want for this. There's a lot of talent out there. I tell you, look, there's 360 million people in America, only 2,500 play in the NFL. There is so much talent out there, not only from the field perspective, but the front office side too. Hopefully we get these teams in these cities and we can really build this and make this grow, because there's a lot of talent out there that could help this.
What would you say you miss most about Albany?
I say the people. I really do. Look, if you go to a place and you win a championship, you can't have support, from people. People have to support you. And so, I've been in places too where, hey, sometimes there's nobody in the crowd. No player wants to play in front of nobody. That's really, really, even looking at the NFL guys right now. Yeah, they're making millions of dollars, but it feels different to them. Look, no amount of money can take away from what fans give you. And so for me, Albany embraced us from day one. And that's really something. It feels like family. It's a big reason why I settled in Orlando, because Orlando Predators fans were so great to me. And so Albany, to me, is a second home, just like Spokane is. There's great people, but I can't narrow it down to one thing. But I would say the people. When you're driving around town, people recognize the players. They support the players. There's signs in every window. There's bumper stickers on cars. It's an awesome feeling, and it makes you feel like you're doing something worthwhile.
Yeah, it goes a long way. And, I think, just from that interaction that we talked about before. But even, when you're on the road, you don't want to play in an empty arena. You I kind of like it going into a hostile environment. Like it makes
well,
it
you get everybody's best.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened when everybody came to Albany, when they will come to Albany. I mean, we know we're going to get their best because it's such an amazing environment. And so that's what you got to love. You know, I think that goes back to us, like as owners and coaches and managers, sharing information about, hey, look, this is what we did to get this many people in the building, or this is kind of the marketing, the new direction that we have, or these are the economic indicators that can help you kind of get more sponsorship. I mean, that's what we really want to. I want to get it to, hey, sellout crowds, awesome environments, great game day experience. I mean, I know we have that potential. It's just a matter of obviously getting the right people involved and getting the right organizations involved.
Kevin Wilson's got another question about who you think the top few players on defense are throughout the entire league.
Well, this is where it's going to get interesting. And so I think when you have, I'll say this, and I talk a lot about the AFL because that was just my experience. When you have the NAL now you're going to have this influx of also AFL players. And I think this is really cool. Much like I say with coaches want to now say, hey, like I want to beat Coach Keefe. I get that, and then for me, it's like, hey, I want to beat you too. Well, it's the same thing with the players where you'll have NAL players that will be playing against guys who've played in the AFL. And now it's going to be, well, who is better? Well, hey, I should have been in the AFL, or hey, or I'm better than this guy. You'll get a lot of that stuff. So I think to answer that question, I'll start to see kind of where the rosters kind of are solidified. I'll tell you this, without giving names, to kind of single someone out, we had players that were in camp with us in 2019 with the Albany Empire that ended up playing in the NAL and actually ended up being first-team NAL players. So it made me feel good. Hopefully made them feel good. Obviously, they wanted to be with us, but I knew we had the right talent. Obviously, we chose wisely, not a knock on them because we won the championship, but we knew that they might needed just one more year. Look, great example, Seth Ellis. A great example of Seth Ellis from Jacksonville. Amazing player. He was in camp with us. A lot of players were in camp with us that did really well. It just didn't make it, but did so well in the NAL. So I think that's where I'm really excited about, seeing this kind of total convergence of all these players. And look, if you only have 6 teams and only 25 or 30 guys, whatever it might be, end up being on team, that's, again, the ultimate funnel system where the competition will be even greater. And I think it's going to make for some pretty cool games.
Yeah, I think definitely the competition level will go up this year throughout the league. We got Dave just asking about backup schedules if fans can't attend. I know that the league has talked about contingencies and a bunch of different scenarios. I mean, I think right now everyone's planning on fans being allowed. Obviously, that's all up to COVID and the local governments, but I know the league's monitoring that throughout. So I think, if anything gets adjusted, the league will get that out. We'll probably break that on NAL Live. So stay tuned. We'll make sure that we get not coach anymore, Commissioner Siegfried back on to kind of go over that. This is a good one. This is what I love too. So best heckle from the stands for you.
Hey, I tell you what. So look, there's some people who say really mean things. I'll tell you that. And so for me, it's funny where I tell you this. This is actually that's a great question. So for me, I'm actually in the zone. I hate to say that, like to be that guy, but I'm so focused. I can't hear music. I can't hear fans. I feel bad because some fans will say, even our home fans will be calling my name to maybe meet their son or sign an autograph or something, very politely. And I'm so locked in that as a person. So I've learned very early on in my career to block out everything. And I think that comes with the focus of, the better you get at something, the more locked in you are at what you do. But some of the ones that I think are funny are when they're just funny things. The mean ones that cross the line. Nobody likes that. I don't want that for any opposing player. When they take it, they go too personal. But the funny ones are, I've had people get on me for my shoes or my pants or my haircut. Like that cracks me. If I do hear that, that actually cracks me up.
What kind of shoes you got? I mean, are you wearing dad shoes?
No, it's just anything.
I mean, you're 40.
It's the one-liners, it's the jokes, it's the ones where I laugh. But what you can't do is I cannot acknowledge that I heard it, because if they think that you heard it, well, then they got you. They got you the whole game. So I will stay focused as I can until they're blue in the face, and literally I'm wearing them out, and then they'll just leave me alone. It's so funny though. But it's all good. It's all in good fun. As everybody's being polite. It's really cool.
Paulie says that you gave a fist pump there. So
Paulie's a great dude, man. So Paulie's an Albany guy, man. He's an Albany fan, and that's what I think. That's what really is cool. I mean, we could talk about this at length, but when you watch a college game or an NFL game, even some high school games, the fans are so far away from the players. I mean, we can really interact. That's something that I've always really appreciated about it. Much like an NBA game where I can, clap your hand, look, popcorn spilled on you, whatever it might be. But that's how close you are with everyone. So, those are some pretty cool tickets when you realize how fast the game, how awesome these athletes really are. But I love being able to fist bump and high five everybody in the first 2 or 3 rows. That's a pretty cool experience.
So you won't talk to the fans during the game, like you call a play, and like a lot of times coaches are by the wall, and
No, and it's not a knock on the fans, man. It's like I just want to give. It's not. It's just I just want to give as much, I think, professionalism to the craft as possible. Now, look, there's times where we get a big stop, and I'm a defensive coach, and so therell be times we get a big stop, and I'll start clapping everybody's hands in that regard. But I always want to give. I'm just such a. I respect the opponent so much. It's not a knock on fans or anybody around me. Sometimes when I'm getting interviewed on the field I try to be polite. I give the best answer I can when the play is going on, but I'm so locked into the players because ultimately I want them to have as much success as possible. And I want to be there for them. I don't want to miss anything.
Do you pump up the crowd ever? Are you out there
Man, look, yes, I do get very, very excited. And what really makes me excited is the players. I mean, look, I miss playing every single day. I think any coach will tell you that. Sometimes I'm getting up there now in my age, but I practice with the guys. If we have, some guys, down, I'll get out there. I'll do the best I can as a defensive backfield and put myself in positions and try to simulate the best way I possibly can. Obviously with no pads on, of course, but for me, it's when I see them have success, man, they're like your little brothers, you know what I mean? Like they're just like you build up. Well, yeah. I mean, look, we have to recruit these guys for 3-4 months. They get here, they're in camp. You see them fail, you see them succeed, you see them work their butts off, and then to see them score touchdowns or have a great block or get an interception or a sack, it's like, honestly, I would relate it to a teacher seeing their student get an A on the test. I mean, that's really what it's like. So then comes the pump up, and you want to get the crowd into it. You want the crowd to acknowledge those guys too. But yeah, it's all in good fun, man. It's all great entertainment.
Well, and the crowd feeds off of your energy as a coach. I mean, I've never seen you coach, but I saw photos from Robert, and I could see the passion just from those photos, and I could tell that you're, a hyper coach.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like and to me, it's not fabricated. Again, there's no caffeine. It's not an act. It's just, I love this. I really, really do. It's the same when I'm coaching youth, when I'm coaching 14-year-olds for a national championship, an AAU national championship, it's the same kind of passion because you're around these guys for 8-9 hours a day. You're watching film with them. You love it. The fans are in. I mean, it's just such a great environment. Whether it's national TV or not, it's awesome. I will say this, and sometimes I'm skeptical because I realize everyone is in a different situation in life. But if you really, really love what you do, that is such a key to happiness. It really is. And I found something that I really, really love to do. I love sports. It's not about the money. It really is something that I feel like I wake up and I'm not going to a job. And so it's just, I don't feel bogged down by this. I love doing it. And when you put as much time and effort and energy into it, it just brings that passion out.
So we got a question here from Dave Williams. It looks like he has a Albany Empire shirt on. So any chance that you're going to bring former Empire players back? If so, how many?
Yeah, Dave's a great supporter, man. I appreciate him asking that question. And that's, I think, the big question that a lot of people want to know, in Albany. Who's coming back? Who's going to be there? I'll say this. There's a lot of guys that want to come back, and we want every single one of them to come back. I think really what's happening, and this is not a knock on the Albany Empire and the NAL. Right now, you have talks of the XFL, you have talks of the CFL. When the NFL stops, that's when the agents get cooking. That's when players might have workouts again. That's what a lot of our players are trying to figure out. What's the best situation for them economically, financially? And then if there is an opportunity for us as the NAL Albany Empire to have these guys back to help them be successful once again, we 100% want them back. I think you'll see guys that are a little bit older and that, 32, 33 and above range. they've moved on, and that's not a knock on them. When you take a year off, I learned this the hard way. Well, remember when I coached, I thought I was going to then play again. I was fortunate enough to have a head coaching position, but I was ready to play again. When you don't train like a professional athlete for a year and you're in your 30s, it normally is, it's done, and there's nothing wrong with that. These guys finish as champions. But to answer Dave's question, without saying too many names, you'll have that 23 to 28-year-old player. Those are the guys that you'll probably see come back. Not that we don't want the older player back if they want to come back 100%, but I think, financially, based on where they are at in their lives and their family lives, I think you'll see that 23 to 28-year-old player coming back, because we are going to have opportunities for them to be on their team as we continue to get this going and get more answers from the commissioner. I know those things are all going to come about the schedule and COVID, and we'll get this thing really, really going to be, the team we know it can be.
And you'll probably give me the political answer, but the quarterback, that's the one I see people post every day almost on social media. It was Grady, I think, right?
Yeah,
so is that an opportunity to come back, or is he pretty much retired? Is it up in the air?
And look, and I would say this too. So Patrick O'Brien right now is a quarterback on our roster, great player, a guy that we were looking at to be in the Albany Empire in 2019. He went to the Philadelphia Soul. We're all about competition. And so we tell this, if Tommy Grady wants to come back, absolutely we want Tommy Grady to come back. That's 100%. Now, that's a question for Tommy. We talk a lot too. Tommy's a great person. And a lot of these guys will text or call, and I'll shoot them out to look. If I don't talk to these players, they know I'm always thinking about them. That's really how the relationship that we have, and those players would have with probably their former coaches as well. If they ever needed anything, we're always going to be there for them. Tommy has a family. He's in that 34, 35 range too, so he has some probably things to think about. And so for me, the door is always open for any player that I've ever coached. And I think Patrick, who's a quarterback, he'd be 100% up for the competition. But right now on our roster, hey, it's Patrick O'Brien. You never know how the roster is going to shake out and how things are going to go. And Coach Moss is excited to add some other quarterbacks because, again, there's going to be competition, and that's what you want. Obviously, we all know there'll be 3 quarterbacks, maybe 4 on the roster, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Well, and hopefully, even if some of these guys from the championship team aren't, if they're retired or whatever, hopefully they could still come back and be part of the family, maybe do a reunion event or something.
Well, absolutely. And some of these guys are going to be
tied to that city when you win a championship.
So, some of these guys are going to be coaches with us. That's how this is going to go. And so to kind of tie this into an NFL situation, Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers, they already know they're not going to make the playoffs. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played, for a while. He just got asked yesterday if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback for, the 2021 NFL season. That's a tough question to answer, And so it's all about, hey, if people want to come back, there's contracts to be signed. It's professional football. So if we sign 35 players and 5 guys want to be, on the roster, well, our roster is never set. It's ever changing. We're always going to continue to add the best players possible. So I always say that you're never on the team until you're on the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's always about who's the best. And we got Antoine here. He played for Coach Moss up in Wilkes-Barre, and he says to make sure that you try his shrimp and grits if you haven't already.
Man, look, I'm all about the shrimp and grits, man. I tell you that. Again, I'm a foodie. So literally I have places in Charleston, South Carolina. When I drive home to see my brother in Myrtle Beach, I stop at a place called the Hominy Grill. I can name you restaurants up and down, America about where I stop for specific items. But I love a good shrimp and grit, man. It's definitely a staple in my belly when it's time to eat.
How about barbecue? You a barbecue fan?
Huge barbecue fan. So look, a big thing a big thing for New Year's for me is, so in like my tradition. So my mother is Lebanese, my father's Irish. And so for me, a big thing on New Year's is a pork sandwich. And so it's a tradition, pork sandwich with some cabbage on the side. But yeah, man, I do ribs, I'll do barbecue sandwich, pulled pork, pulled chicken. I'm all about, look, soul food, whatever. We can name any genre of food. I'm going to go in on it. And it's all good, man. Look, I'll say this. I make food. I think there's a difference of cooking and making food. I make myself food, but when it's time to really eat something good, I definitely have to go out to get it.
Because, when I had Coach Foster on the other day, he was telling me about how he cooks for the team. Do you cook for the team?
No, I don't do that. I get great people to cook for our team. I tell you that. Okay. Like, let's say, look. So when I make food, I literally look. I don't reheat stuff, but like I look. I'll make myself chicken. I can make the veggies. I can put a little something together. But I'm not recipe book, cookbook guy. But I'll definitely go out and I'll get whatever genre or style of food I'm feeling. I'll definitely go out and get it. Hot
Pocket fan?
No, man. Now I will say this: I stay away from the processed food. That's part of me eating clean. I stay away from anything processed. And I learned that too. I mean, I have a little bit of a weak stomach, and that was part of like, why, you kind of have to learn. I tell players too, kind of like write down things that make you feel good, write down things that don't make you feel good. It's crazy when you eliminate the things that don't make you feel good, actually how great your production can be as an athlete. And I just started getting that habit, and I've just carried it on as a coach as well.
Well, that's good, man. Well, I'm a foodie too. I don't eat healthy, but I definitely, I've definitely dropped some weight in the last 4 months. So down to about 232 right now.
There you go.
Down to about 210, but my portions are less now. And so that's helping me. And I try, but then again, Christmas, I don't know if you saw, I went to the Brazilian steakhouse.
I did. I saw it, man.
I can't help it when I go there.
Look, man, look, Christmas, Thanksgiving, those are things, that's okay. You know what I mean? That's okay. Well, to me too, that's a cool thing, man. Like, you got to start something where it's, hey, the game of the week, you're doing a local hotspot, a foodie place, and then you go to the game. That's what we do as coaches. Yep. We'll go out the night before, we'll get a good meal. And again, I try not to go too crazy because we have a game the next day. But that's another thing I tell players: never try something the night before a game that you've never eaten, because it's not going to turn out well. It'll just zap you and drain you. Those are things you got to do in the off season as a player.
Do you have any thing that's different for pregame meals for your guys? I know I had a coach one time, he wouldn't let our guys eat salad because he said that, really goes through you. But do you have anything that you kind of prohibit the guys on game day? Yeah,
so we'll have. So we have a great service that takes care of us, and obviously, hopefully, they're back. And I want to give names because I want them to be back. But normally the staple for me would be, hey, you got your pasta, you got the carb loads, you got your chicken. Probably every coach is going to say this. For me, it's also about kind of the lack of sauces. We'll always have kind of green beans, some kind of vegetable. There'll be fruit there, banana, potassium, the vitamin C with the oranges and all those kind of things. So the guys really take care of themselves really well. And then in the locker room, we have a great director of football ops, Brandon Goldstein. He was the equipment manager of the year, 2 years ago for us, for the Albany Empire, for the entire league of the AFL. Great guy. He was an intern with me in Orlando, but all the kind of good stuff that you need, man. All the protein bars, all the intangible things. So he does a lot of good research into what is the best, what doesn't bog you down. Because really, fans don't think about this stuff, but you have a stomach issue as a player. That's the last thing you want to be playing a game in. So we let the players kind of choose, but definitely nothing fried, nothing processed. All healthy stuff, and teaching the sponsors of that this is food that is used to produce. It is used for energy. This is not like some sit down, make you feel good kind of meal. Right. It's just to go in, get that energy. Yeah, that's what it is. It's performance based. So we do a lot of cool things, but nothing outrageous. Everybody makes good decisions, and really try to teach the players too about nutrition. And hopefully for me too, hopefully these teams do it. But you can find. I want to help coaches as much as I can. You can find a local nutritionist because a lot of these guys too, unfortunately, some of these bigger guys, they struggle with weight. Some of the smaller guys like myself, I lose weight a lot. So to keep that muscle on, you got to have that kind of fine balance. And sometimes they don't know how to do it properly. So if there's someone in the community that they can go to talk and kind of keep a log and notebook to kind of how to properly get the best out of their body, that's always good stuff.
All right. Last question here from Joey. Planning on any open tryouts?
Hey, Joey, awesome question, man. Absolutely. So that we'll get to that. So I can't give you a specific date. Obviously, right now, too, just like any business, we're kind of hindered a little bit by COVID. Every community is different right now, especially, Albany is very different than Florida. Every state's a little bit different. But normally, we'd have maybe 2, if not 3, before the season. So once things kind of are alleviated, we're going to have workouts. We just have to get everything squared away with the capital region, the state of New York, listen to the governors, obviously recommendations of what we can and can't do. But the minute we're allowed to do stuff, we're going to do it, and we're going to get it out there to everyone. Because, look, again, I don't really go into that process, and I should have. I was discovered at an open workout. So my first opportunity going all the way back to 2004 with the Columbus War Dogs was as an open workout. Came down, drove 2 hours. I was living in Atlanta at the time out of college, and, saw a flyer and said, that's actually how I figured out arena football was a thing, and went down there and just killed the open workout. And again, John Forcade gave me that opportunity. So I always tell players, I'm a product of the open workout system. I'll always give players an ample opportunity to show us what they got.
And that's kind of what almost every other coach besides Ben Bennett has been through as well. They went the open tryout route, and so definitely gives it an approach. I want to thank you for joining me. This is like 2 episodes, so we doubled almost every other one. So you are number 1 as far as no.
Well, this goes back to my comment. When we're in meetings, the players are like, "Oh man, we're going to be in this meeting for 2 hours." So I got to wrap. I'm going to know how to wrap it up sometime.
Yeah, no, it's been great. This will be available on the podcast here shortly, and people can watch it. But tomorrow night, episode 8, I've got Brandon Fuentes from the Orlando Predators, DB. Played a few years in the various leagues. So that's our first player that's going to be on the show.
Hey, so go back to the question with that I was asked earlier, that asked me about players that I think is going to be good. Brandon Fuentes was in camp, was actually the last cut of the Albany Empire in 2019. Great player, probably going to be the middle defensive back for the Orlando Predators. An amazing player that was once in our camp in the AFL. So these guys exist, they're around, and we all know each other very well. So Brandon's going to he's going to have a great job this year.
Well, join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thanks again, Coach, man. We'll have you back on in a few weeks.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thank you to all the fans for asking questions and all the former players and stuff. And, I know that we're going to get the season going one way or the other, and I'm really looking forward to it.